Mike Kelly of Pennsylvania is with us, and he is a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. And also joining us, Representative Jeb Hensarling is with us from Texas of the Financial Services Committee, and he is the chairman. Guys, welcome back.
Thanks, Sean. Great to be with you.
Now, Mike, do you remember any other? You've been there a while. Jeb, you've been there a while. I don't remember many instances where you guys get applauded for comments that you make during hearings.
Well, certainly Chairman Hensley's been here longer than I have. I was only here for one session, but I think it's kind of the average Joe just is very fearful of the IRS. Sean, I don't know that what I said was anything that dynamic, but it is reflective of what the entire American people think.
Look, I'll use myself as an example. I'm an outspoken critic of government. I have strong political opinions, and I've told my accountant for years, guy that helps me manage finances and stuff, hey, always err on the side of paying more, because I've always felt that the IRS would have a target on my back. I've always felt that way. Now, what does that tell you about my thinking?
You're correct. I mean, listen, this reconfirms everything that we've always been afraid of. These people, what an egregious abuse of power. This is such a rogue agency. Now you think to yourself, my goodness, these folks are really out of control. And the fact that they think they're above the law, they don't have the scope of where they can go, there's no limits to it. This is something we have to be very concerned about. This is very, very chilling. But unfortunately, it adds more and more to what the American people feel. They have a gap between their faith and trust in their government, which just can reconfirm last week listening to the chairman, the acting chairman of the IRS, making an excuse when you've been on the other side of it, buddy, that I have too. These people can scare the living daylights out of you, and they really hold you in compliance. Your feet are always held to the fire. It's time for them.
Oh yeah, you got to prove your innocence to the IRS.
Oh, right, you're guilty until proven innocent. Absolutely, it's the opposite of the way our system's supposed to work.
Sean, I wasn't in the room at the time, but had I been, I would have given Mike Kelly a standing ovation then, and I'd certainly like to give him one now, because he embodies the outrage of the American people. I mean, what this is a scandal about the single most feared government agency trampling upon our most sacred right, and that is our freedom of speech. And to sit here and think that we now have members of the administration who tell us that the law is irrelevant, they don't even know whether it's illegal, and others don't care. I mean, where is all of this headed? I mean, I'm sitting here as the chairman of the Financial Services Committee. We have Secretary Lew coming to testify before us tomorrow. But the real question I'm going to have for him is, he seems to be part of an administration where, at least at the upper echelons, it's hear no evil, see no evil. Other people knew. They kept it away, theoretically, according to their testimony from the president, from the president's chief of staff, then Jack Lew, now Secretary of Treasury. I mean, what kind of administration is this?
Well, I think you raise a really good point here, and I think most people do fear the IRS. And I want you to know something. This, for me, this transcends anything to do with party, political orientation. I know some on the left have been arguing that, hey, the NAACP apparently years ago was targeted and other liberal groups were targeted, and during the Nixon administration. I don't care who is in power. This is an abuse of power, period, against American citizens.
Amen. And wrong is wrong. It doesn't matter party. And I would think that, you don't do the right thing because there's a penalty for doing the wrong thing. You do the right thing because it's the right thing. This is about American values that have been trampled on, and disregard the dismissiveness and the arrogance that I witnessed on Friday is indicative of what we've been watching. This is a culture that seems to be taking hold in the executive office. You've got to wonder, who are these folks and who gave them this kind of power that they can abuse it, and how little regard they have for the American public. We've got to find out who was responsible for this, and more importantly, why were they targeting these groups? My gosh, they targeted groups, conservative groups. They audited conservative donors, and they leaked very, very private information out that they never should have been made public or given to others.
Oh, and the questions.
It's horrible at all levels.
Tell us what you pray. Tell us how your prayers are. Tell us about your life, asking questions about associations and speeches you've given. I mean, it's nuts. Let me play for you, because you had the hearing with the former Commissioner Doug Shulman, and let me play what he said back in March of 2012 when he testified, oh, no, this is not happening.
Can you elaborate on what's going on with that? I mean, can you give us assurances that the IRS is not targeting particular groups based on political leanings?
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing this up, because I think there's been a lot of press about this and a lot of moving information, so I appreciate the opportunity to clarify. First, let me start by saying yes, I can give you assurances. As you know, we pride ourselves on being a non-political, nonpartisan organization. I'm the only me and our chief counsel are the only presidential appointees, and I have a 5-year term that goes beyond, runs through presidential elections, just so we will have none of that kind of political, intervention in things that we do.
All right. Now, that was then. Now, let's listen to what he said. He said, absolutely, that's not happening. That was March of 2012. Now, from what we understand, they knew as early as, 2011? Maybe sooner that this, in fact, was happening. But here's what he said today when confronted with all this.
It came to the attention of the division head. How in the world could it take so long for senior people at the IRS to find the problem, fix the problem? And was there no ongoing oversight of the employees in Cincinnati and what they were doing? Mr. Sherman, let me start with you.
Again, I'm not there to go ask a set of questions of people, what happened when, who, and how.
With all due respect, you were there, though.
No, I was there. But since this all came to light and the full set of facts are there, I haven't been able to be back there talking with people doing things. So let me just answer, though, your question.
But why didn't you know when you were there?
I agree that this is an issue that when someone spotted it, they should have run up the chain, and they didn't. And why they didn't, I don't know.
Do you think there's an issue there of whether or not there's honesty within the agency? Congressman Hensarling?
Well, I think to some extent it's what Mike said. I mean, I think you're viewing the arrogance of power that these people don't have to be accountable to the American people, and certainly we're going to get to the bottom and find out who knew what when, who authorized what, and so far I see an administration that says they're outraged, but at the upper echelons they say we don't know anything, but who does know anything? Nobody's taking responsibility here, and we just had our president, not 2 or 3 weeks ago before a college audience get up and say, you got to trust your government, and he belittled everybody in the conservative and Tea Party movement for being fearful of tyranny around every corner. And I just say, Mr. President, this is the very definition of tyranny, and now there are members of your administration who clearly are not being forthcoming about this activity to intimidate and harass and abuse this power, and all the president is doing is trying to get even more of it and create even larger databases of information that can be used against the American people. I mean, every time you think this administration can't do something more outrageous, they outdo themselves.
What do you think of this ABC Washington Post poll that finds a majority of Americans believe the IRS deliberately harassed conservative groups by targeting them?
Well, listen, I think it's pretty obvious. Sean, if it waddles like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. This one doesn't pass the smell test at any levels. As the chairman just said, we have a responsibility to the American people to find out who did this, and more importantly, why did they do that? And we have to investigate it. An audit is one thing. The IG did an audit, but those folks are not under oath. We need to do investigations where people are under oath, and we need to get the answers. And we need to get the answers now, because the gap between what our American citizens feel, the faith and trust they have in their government, is constantly being eroded. And there's things like this that really bother people. And honestly, if the president is getting his briefings from the press or from a TV show, there's something wrong when his own people don't give him this information. This goes back years. This didn't just start last week. My goodness, they knew about it. They just didn't answer the questions, and they dodged every single piece of information they can. The facts, I think, will speak for themselves. Again, our duty as representatives is to go and find out what happened, ask the tough questions, and have a strong enough stomach and a strong enough backbone to get to the answers for the American people. We have got to restore faith and confidence in this government we have, and the only way we can do it is finding out what happened and hold those accountable, responsible for it, and make sure that we we take care of it.
What are we supposed to do with the knowledge that we've got within the last 24 hours that the White House now has offered yet this new account of how and when it learned that the IRS improperly targeted conservative groups, and they're now saying that some senior officials were informed of the findings, but Obama was not. And Jay Carney's out there revising today his earlier assertions, and he had to admit that the White House counsel, now this is the president's lawyer, told the White House chief of staff, which is the president's top guy, and other top officials about the IRS findings nearly a month ago. And then the president said he found out about it on the news.
Well, Sean, again, it's an administration that is in complete disarray on this story, something that, again, how can senior members of the IRS not know that this was taking place? And even if you accept the president's word, what do you think about an administration that ensures that the president doesn't know anything about these scandals. And any organization I've been in, I say bad news needs to travel fast. And apparently in the president's administration, it's at all costs save the president from any bad news where he may have to take responsibility. And then, Sean, again, I just think as we get to the truth here, we need to know what the administration is doing going forward in real time, because under Obamacare, the IRS and HHS are building the single largest personal information database our government has ever attempted. And now we know how they've used IRS records. Wait till they combine that with your health records. And then we've got this thing called the Office of Financial Research that is putting together data about all financial transactions in America. And when this is all said and done, you know, we're going to have a database that Big Brother is going to be jealous of, that the government has, and we have this administration overseeing it.
It's really a frightening thing. What did you think? I don't know if you've been following the story about the AP and the AP and their emails all being monitored and phone calls being monitored. Now we got the story. I'm friends with James Rosen, truth be told here. And James Rosen is a great guy, great reporter. I mean, he's just a guy that gets up, rolls his sleeves up every day and goes to work, targeted by the Obama Justice Department as a potential co-conspirator because he went out, got information, and reported on it, which I thought was a reporter's job last I heard.
Well, listen, I don't know that our Constitution's ever been under more attack than it is right now, and this isn't by a foreign entity. This is domestic threats, and I think, listen, Chairman Hensarling, when I first came here, he was the chairman for our conference. I know one thing. When he addressed us, he said, if I don't know this to be absolutely true, I will not speak it. Now, I have great confidence in what he has to say, and I think the American people, again, it is that loss of faith and trust in your government, the erosion, the very erosion of what we know to be true and what we believe in that is most a threat right now. Listen, this is just the IRS, but what else is going on that we don't know? Who are these folks, and what is their end purpose? I just don't get it. I think the American people are outraged now, and they need to demand, I don't mean ask for, but demand right now that we do major pro-growth tax reform and that we lower the ability of this IRS to get inside our lives. My goodness, the chairman just said it. Not only do they know what kind of cereal you eat, they want to know what kind. Do you put skim milk, 2% or whole milk on it? I mean, they know too much about all of this.
Guys, I could talk to you all day. Really, really informative half hour. Appreciate it from both of you. When we come back,